Hi, so welcome once again to our YouTube channel. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. Really appreciate you. For those of us that are returning, thanks very much for being with us. And for those of us that are tuning into our channel for the very first time, I wish this video will change your mind and uh, make you see reasons why you should subscribe to our channel. Subscribing to our channel is going to do you a whole lot of good. Now, today we want to talk about the Neco 2024 Biology Practical Specimen. We'll be picking all of the specimens one after the other, talking about them. We talk about some characteristics of all of these specimens, and help us to understand or to shed more light on some of the possible questions that will possibly might be coming across in the course of the examination. This video is going to be a full pack where we'll be talking about series of things, particularly as it concerns all of these specimens one after the other. So we'll be picking all of the specimens one after the other, and we'll be talking about them, helping us to understand a whole lot of things about each of the specimens. Without further ado, we'll quickly list out all of the specimens like we are seeing on the screen right now. We'll be listing out all of the specimens and helping us to get familiar with them. So with our specimen A, we have for our specimen A, we have onion bulb. Onion bulb is what we are having for our specimen A. And then for our specimen B, we have ginger rhizome. Our specimen C is the Irish potato, it is a tuber. Our specimen D happens to be a potted bean seedling, a week-old seedling. And then we have specimen E to be the potted Guinea corn seedling as well. And then we have specimen F to be the pigeon's head with the neck. Specimen G is the atlas of a rabbit. Specimen H is the lumbar of a rabbit. Specimen I is a cactus plant. Specimen J happens to be water lettuce. We have our specimen K to be ripe potato fruit. Our specimen L is ripe palm fruit. Specimen M is ripe Tridax fruit. Specimen N is mango fruit. And then we have our specimen O to be the flamboyant flower. So we'll be picking all of these one after the other as we explain questions, or we explain characteristics, we explain so many things about each of the specimens. So let us go straight into that. Now, picking the first specimen, specimen A, which happens to be the onion bulb. The botanical name for onion bulb is Allium cepa. We can see the classification of this particular species here, of this particular specimen. For the kingdom, it is a Plantae. We have it belonging to the Plantae, and it is the phylum is a Trachyphyta. It is a Trachyphyte, so it belongs to the Trachyphyta. And then the class, it is called the Leucida. The organ, it is Asparagales. And then the family, it is the Aliaceae. The genome is Allium, and then the species is Cepa. Now, for this particular crop, it is a vegetable. That is what you are seeing here. It is a vegetable, and it is also an underground crop plant. It actually stores its fruit on the ground, and so it is very rich in vitamins. This particular crop is very rich in vitamins. It has so many minerals in them, minerals that even have antioxidant effects that helps to eliminate free radicals from the body. They have low calories. Yes, this particular crop or this particular specimen, they have limited calories in them. Now, there are basically two types of this onion that we can come across. We have some of them to be white coated, and some of them have purple to brown coat. Now, when we look at it, the bulb, it is a vegetable like we have said earlier on. When it is dried or grounded, it is actually powdered and can be used as spice. So we eat this particular specimen in a whole lot of things. We add it to so many of our dishes, of our delicacies. It is eaten in salad. It is eaten mixed with fresh pepper to make sauces and the rest of those. We also add them to other types of vegetables to actually have our food made. So these are more the things that we are looking at, talking about the Allium cepa. Now, for the Allium cepa, its placentation is axial. It has axial placentation. We have so many types of placentation, but for this particular crop, which is the onion bulb, the placentation is axial. So looking at some, we quickly want to see some pictures that can help drive home our points on this. So this is a picture. We have this as a picture. This is the picture of the onion. We can see it. It has, particularly this one is having purple brown coat. So this is a picture that can help us understand what you are talking about. This is another picture. Now this picture is a labeled diagram of the onion, particularly a one that is having a longitudinal cut, a cut from top till bottom. Now if you look at this part here, we have this part here to be the foliar stem. That's the foliar stem of the crop. And then outline here, on the outside here, it has the coat called the tunic. Now the tunic can actually scale off, and then we have the inner layer, the innermost layer, to the layer that is closest to the tunic, becoming the new tunic when it dries after receiving some air. Now this inner part here, the fleshy part, is the part that is actually eating. And then we have this part here to be the modified compact stem, and then the adventitious root. All of these are parts of the onion. And then, so here we also have another example. This particular one here is talking about all of these stages of growth that we have in the onion. So it starts from the seed, moving through germination, when it sprouts, to the seedling, and then the plant, before it starts to flower and then becomes a ripe onion. So that is basically what we have to say about this particular species. So we'll move to the next species now, which is specimen B, that is ginger rhizome, and the scientific name is the Zingiber officinale. That is the scientific name of this particular specimen. Now looking at its classification, it starts from the kingdom Plantae. Also it is a trachyphyta, and then the class, it belongs to the Liliopsida. The organ there is the Zingiberales, and then the family, it is the Zingiberaceae. Genus is Zingiber, and the species is officinale. So if you look at this particular crop, it is a flowering plant whose rhizome, or the ginger, is used as spice. It is highly medicinal. Yes, this particular crop is very, very medicinal. It is used for its medicinal values. It is herbaceous, and it is a perennial crop, and it is oftentimes cultivated as an annual crop because it produces pseudostems. Pseudostems are 4 stems, and it is made up of rolled bases of leaves. I will get to show us what that is talking about shortly. Now, reproduction in this particular crop is asexual. It carries out an asexual, it undergoes asexual reproduction, and the type of asexual reproduction it undergoes is called the vegetative propagation. It undergoes vegetative propagation. Now, it is the budding that is actually the particular type of vegetative propagation that the rhizomes undergo. Looking at some of the medicinal values, we said that it increases the serotonin and the dopamine levels in the body. It also reduces inflammation. It is good for anxiety and depression. It also helps dementia and Alzheimer's diseases, as well as PTSD, which is the post-traumatic stress disorder. It eases stomach pains and nausea, and it also prevents swine flu. So these and more are some of the medicinal effects or uses of the ginger rhizome. So this is what this ginger rhizome looks like. We have this here as a picture of the ginger. So this is how it looks. It does not have a regular shape. Gingers do not have regular shapes. Now this is how the plant looks like, particularly when it is being labeled. So we have something that looks like this. We see all of this part here as the leaves. Now this part here make up the scaly leaf. All of this part here make up the scaly leaf, and they can actually peel one after the other. They can actually peel over one another. And here we have the internode. All of this part here, we have the internode. We have the adventitious roots, which can actually carry out or get affirmed to the ground to actually carry out more germination. And that is what we are seeing there. Now, like I said earlier on, the reproduction type in this particular crop is the asexual reproduction. Particularly, we call it the vegetative propagation and budding. So this is a bud here. The cutting of this bud here, at this point here, the cutting of the bud is what we refer to as budding, and that is how this particular bud now becomes a fully grown, it becomes an independent entity from this particular parent crop, and then it starts to mature on its own. And that is the kind of reproduction that we have in this particular crop. So that is about the ginger rhizome. So we can see the ginger here. This is the plant here. Now I need us to understand that there is a similar crop to this particular ginger. It is called the turmeric. Now this is what the turmeric looks like. If you look at it, you notice that the outer coating is not like that of the ginger. This one is more or less reddish brown, and it is unlike that of ginger, which is having this color to be just brown. Also, looking inside the ginger, you find that the ginger inside here is just light brown, but looking at this one here, it looks more or less like a dark red or a red kind of color. So this is its own plant here. This is how it looks for that of turmeric. So we should not take them for one another, we should not mismatch them. This is also a rhizome. So that is about ginger. And then the next one we have to talk about is specimen C, which is the Irish potato. Specimen C is the Irish potato, that is the Solanum tuberosum. Solanum tuberosum is the scientific name. The classification, we have the kingdom to be Plantae. It belongs to the Trachyphyta. It is an angiosperma. The order is the Solanales. We have the order to be the Solanales. We have the family to be the Solanaceae. Then the genus is Solanum, while the species is the tuberosum. All of these are the classifications that we have for the Irish potato. Now, going further, it is also an edible perennial starchy vegetable tuber. Yes, it is a tuber and it is very, very edible. It is starchy. It has high starchy starch content in it, high carbohydrates in it. Now, it is a good source of soluble fiber which helps to reduce cholesterol levels. It helps to reduce cholesterol levels. Now, this particular crop is very rich in starch. It is very rich in carbohydrate, like I said earlier on, and it is edible. It is a perennial crop, even if it is cultivated as annual crops. Now, it is a vegetable tuber. Yes, it is a very good source of soluble fiber, and it helps to reduce cholesterol level in the body. It also has in it high amount of protein, minerals, vitamins, and the rest of those. Now, there are basically two types of this potato, of this Irish potato. We have the red and the white. Now, reproduction of this particular crop, of this particular plant, it could be in two ways. Now, we could have it to be sexual. When it is sexual, it is seen in flowers. We see it here. It is when it is sexual, we use flowers that bear fruits. Flowers that bear fruits are what we use in actually bringing about or to cultivate this particular crop when we are producing it sexually. But if it is asexually, we make use of the eye of the potato plant. We get the eye of a potato plant, a ripe potato plant, and then we pick the eye on which asexual reproduction is actually carried out. So that is what the Irish potato has for us, the Solanum tuberosum. Now, looking at the diagram, this is a picture of the Solanum tuberosum. This is a picture of it. You can see how it looks. Now, this is the plant of it. So we have the vegetative part of the crop here, and this is the tuber of the crop. You can see that this is also what we are talking about. So that is about the specimen that we are talking about right now. So the next specimen we have before us is the specimen D, which is the potted bean seedling. The potted bean seedling, the scientific name is the Phaseolus vulgaris. That is the scientific name of the bean, Phaseolus vulgaris. So classification here, we have the kingdom to be Plantae, the phylum is Trachyphyta, the class is the Angiosperma, we have the order to be Fabales, the family is the Fabaceae. You can see it here, the genus is the Phaseolus, while the species is the vulgaris. Now, bean is a legume, and since it is a legume, it is called a pulse. So we see them as pulses. Now, it is a major creeper or climber because its stem creeps on the ground. So we have so many varieties of this particular crop. We have varieties like the kidney bean, we have the black bean, we have the pinto bean, the navy bean, and the rest of those. So many varieties are found in the Phaseolus species. Now, it is an important source of protein. This particular crop is an important source, very important source of protein. And the placentation in bean is marginal. That's the placentation that we have in the Phaseolus vulgaris. Germination is epigeo because it actually carries its seed leaf above the soil level. Now, bean here is a summer crop. It is a summer crop that actually needs warm temperature. That is what you have there. So it is actually cultivated in an environment that have warm temperature, a warm climatic environment. Now, it is capable of nitrogen fixation And this ability of it to actually carry out nitrogen fixation is the reason why farmers do not actually necessarily need to apply much fertilizer to this crop when they are being cultivated. Now maturity of this bean seed takes about 55 to 60 days when planting is done. So between planting and harvesting it takes approximately 2 months. That's between 55 to 60 days. Now I said earlier on that these crops are creepers, so they are called vines. As such they need external support. Yes, we need to actually support. If we want the plants to do well, we need to actually support the stem when we cultivate them. So they are supported in form of using some canes or poles to actually carry the seed leaf above the soil level. So that is about the specimen D, the potted bean seedling, the Phaseolus vulgaris. So looking at pictures now, we have this here. This is a potted bean. You can see the picture here. That is how the bean looks. So this here that you are finding here, this is an example of the cotyledon. You can see the cotyledon. So let me show us a picture that will actually carry it out properly. So you can see the seed leaf now. You can see the bean shaped seed leaf being taken above the cotyledon. That is what the Phaseolus vulgaris is actually talking about. So the next specimen we have before us now is the specimen E, which is a potted Guinea corn seedling. Specimen E is a potted Guinea corn seedling, and we have its own classification here. We can see the scientific name here to be the sorghum bicolor. That's the scientific name, the sorghum bicolor. Classification here, we have it to be Plantae, a Trachyphyta. The class is the Angiosperma, the order is the Poales. The family is the Poaceae, the genome is sorghum, and the species is the bicolor. So we have different types as well. We have the white as well as the red. Now maturity for this particular crop takes between 3 to 4 months. It is always seen as a cereal. Now sorghum is a large stout grass with average height of 7 to 9 feet. It has average height of 7 to 9 feet. Now it has bushy flowers. It has bushy flower heads, and that flower head is what we refer to as the panicles. So I will show us a picture of what I'm talking about shortly. So we see the bushy flower heads. Now it is primarily cultivated for forage. Yes, we actually cultivate them particularly for forage as animal feed. It is seen used as syrup production. It is used in the production of some syrups as well as in the production of ethanol. Now they are drought and heat resistant. This particular crop can survive in environments that is very dry. So they are drought and heat resistant. They grow or germinate on all soil types. There is basically no soil type that these particular crops cannot be grown. Now it is very rich in carbohydrates, fat, protein, vitamins and the rest of those. It has high amount of minerals, of dietary fiber. It could be eaten raw when it is young, and then it gives milky feeling, and can also be milled into flour, but will be needing you to boil it when it is mature. Yes, when it is mature you'll be needing to boil it to be able to get out the nutrients from inside this particular crop that we're talking about, which is the sorghum bicolor. That is the Guinea corn. So that is what we want to talk about, talking about the Guinea corn. So let us see some pictures to understand what you have said. Now this is what the Guinea corn looks like. We can see it. You can see the grains. So they are grains, they are cereals. So this is what they look like. Now this here is what I was referring to as the flower head, the panicles. This here that we have the red color, this is what we refer to as the panicle. So let me show us the complete plant structure. Now this is the plant structure. So this particular part here, this part here that is in the head is what we refer to as the flower head or the panicle. So that is basically what we have to say about the Guinea corn. And the next specimen we're talking about now is specimen F, which is a pigeon's head with its neck. Specimen F is a pigeon's head with its neck. Now looking at this particular specimen, we are looking at the types of beaks. We will look at a whole lot of things. So let's start with talking about its scientific classification. So it is called the Columba livia scientifically. That is the scientific name, the Columba livia. So let us quickly look at its classification. It belongs to the kingdom Animalia. It is a chordata. It is an ape, so it belongs to the class of the apes. the order is the columbiforms, the family is the columbidae, the genome is the columba, and the species is the livia. Now, pigeons are in the same class or the same family rather as the doves. You find the pigeons in the same family as the doves. Now they have short necks with slender beaks and stout body. That is basically how we describe them, to have short necks, slender beaks and stout body. Now they feed on seeds, fruits and plants, particularly when they are domesticated. So those are the things that they feed on, could be seeds, fruits or even plants. Now these organisms, they are oviparous, meaning that they lay eggs, they are egg layers, and when they lay their eggs they incubate them for about 14 to 19 days, and when they eventually hatch their eggs they actually care for their young for about 3 weeks. Now they possess scales, these organisms possess scales on their legs, their hind leaves particularly, they possess scales on their hind leaves, and then at the tip of the hind leaves there they have the digits, they have digits at the tip of their hind leaves with nails. Now they have different feather colors, they have different colors, different characteristic colors of the feathers, and then the base of their beak has sensitive skin portion that is called the cere. The cere is particularly found at the base of the beak on the head, and the hairs on the head stand up to form what we refer to as crest. So looking at the pigeons now, we're looking at the types of beaks that are found in this organism. Now to explain that, we'll talk about the different types of beaks that we have, and they are modified based on the type of food that these organisms feed on. That is how we differentiate all of these organisms. So we have those that are short and strong. We have some beaks that are short and strong, those that are found in the eagle specifically, they are short and strong. Those that are found to be short and strong, like those found in the eagle, they are found like that because the eagle feeds on fleshy parts, it feeds on flesh, so it needs very strong beak to be able to tear flesh, to shear flesh. That is why it has its own beak modified as such. And then the one that is found in the woodpecker, it is long and thin. This is so because the woodpecker actually needs to peck on wood to be able to get to the organism that is found inside the wood itself. That is what it feeds on, so it needs to bore a hole on the trunk of the wood to be able to reach the organism inside it. And then we have the ones that are found by the ducks, the ones found on the ducks, which is actually flat and serrated. It is flat and serrated, so it is using that to sift through muddy clay water to be able to get its food from the duck's water. And then we have the ones that are found in the pigeons, that is actually short, strong and then cone shaped. It is short, strong and cone shaped because it actually uses it to pick it uses it to pick on the seeds and the fruits and the plants that are found in the as food or as feed for this particular organism. So looking at pictures now, we see this here. This particular part here is what I refer to as the cere. This is the fleshy part that is close to the base of the beak, or that is found at the base of the beak. This is the beak here. So we can see the beak to be short, it is cone shaped. Are we together? The beak is short and it is cone shaped. So we can see the cere here, and then we have the hair. Now look at the hair here, the feathers here that is standing on the body of the animal. It is actually forming what we refer to as the crest. So that is what we said previously. So we can see another picture here now showing the beautiful colors of the pigeon, and it is actually showing us the cere here as well, close to the beak, which is cone shaped. And we have another picture here that can help to drive home our point. Moving further now, we talk about specimen G, which is the atlas vertebrae of the rabbit. The atlas vertebrae of the rabbit is what we are talking about, and the scientific name of this rabbit is called the Oryctolagus corniculus. That is the scientific name of the rabbit, Oryctolagus corniculus. So we have the atlas there to be the first cervical vertebrae. The first cervical vertebrae that we have is what we refer to as the atlas. Now this particular bone there sits at the base of the skull. It sits at the base of the skull. It is the bone that actually carries the skull. and then it is commonly called the C1 vertebrae. That is the common name for this particular bone. It is called the C1 vertebrae. Now it articulates at its own base. It articulates at the base of the skull and with the second cervical bone, which is called the axis. Now we have two types of cervical bones. The first one is called the atlas that we're talking about, and the other is called the axis. The atlas is the first bone that we have sitting directly under the skull, and then it is connected at a particular point called the odontoid process with the second cervical bone, which is the axis at the lower end. The atlas brings about movement of the head freely in all directions. We call that type of movement rotational movement. Now, the centrum is found fused together with the axis in a process called the odontoid process. That was what I was trying to explain previously, that there is a connection between the two cervicals, the C1, which is the atlas, and the axis that comes after it. I'll show us a picture to help us understand that very shortly. Now, the number of bones, the number of cervical vertebrae that we have in this particular animal, which is the Oryctolagus corniculus, the rabbit, is 7. So it ranges from the C1 to the C7. 7 cervical vertebrae in number. So we have the C1 to the C7. That is what the cervical bones are. So looking at this picture now, we'll be able to understand properly. So this is an example of an atlas. Let me show us this picture so we'll be able to understand it properly. Now looking at this now, we have this particular part here called the odontoid process. This is the odontoid process. Now this place here is where the C1 sits on the C2. We have this this is the C1, which is the atlas. Now it sits on this aspect or on this part for the C2. So we have the arc here, we have the anterior arc here, and then we have all of this part here, the articular facet as well as the vertebral artery. So those are the parts of the atlas that we are talking about. So this particular bone is found in this region in the neck of the bone of the animal. You can see it found at this region here. This is where we have the atlas. You can see it here. That's the atlas there, found in this region here. That's the atlas. And then we have the next bone there, which is the axis. So all of these bones here make up the cervical region of the vertebral column, and they are 7 in number. So that is what we have to discuss about the atlas. And then looking at the axis now, we have the lumbar vertebrae of the rabbit. That is the specimen H. The lumbar vertebrae of the rabbit is the specimen H. Now the lumbar is another vertebrae that is found on the backbone, like we have just talked about the atlas, found in the neck regions directly underneath the skull. We also have the lumbar that is found on the backbone, but this time around its location is at the lower abdomen. It consists of a set of 7 bones as well, ranging from the L1 to the L7. Now other structures in the abdominal region where we have the lumbar vertebrae, we have the lumbar spine, we have the intervertebral discs, we have the spinal cord, we have the spinal nerves. These are other structures that are found in the region where we have the lumbar vertebrae. Like I said earlier on, it is found in the abdominal region. Now the lumbar vertebrae are bones used for attachment of organs and for stability and protection, because it helps to actually protect internal organs and structures in the body of an organism, and in this case in the body of the rat. So it is the third region of the set of bones on the vertebral column. The third region because we have the cervical, the thoracic, before we now have the lumbar. And okay, I listed that here earlier also. We have before the lumbar, we have the thoracic. The thoracic are the set of bones in the chest region that form the rib cage. And then after the lumbar, we have the set of bone called the sacral vertebrae. So those are the bones. So in the spinal region, we have, or in the backbone, we have 5 sets of bones. The first one is the cervical, followed by the thoracic, and then we have the lumbar, which is the one we're talking about right now. And then the fourth one is where we have the sacral, before we have the last one, which is the caudal, that is the tail bones. So they make all parts of the axial skeleton. Yes, this particular bone, including the atlas that we made mention of earlier on, they all form part of the axial skeleton. We have 2 types of skeleton. we have the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. So the atlas, which is part of the cervical, as well as the lumbar, make up the axial skeleton because they form the backbone. So looking at pictures now, we have the lumbar in this region here. The lumbar is found in this region here. We can see the label, we can see the diagram there labeled. So that is where we have the lumbar. So we can see it here now. We can see the lumbar here. We can see the lumbar region here. So if we count all of these bones here, starting from this place here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So those 7 there make up the lumbar vertebrae. And here is another vertebrae, another picture of the lumbar vertebrae that we're still talking about. We can see it. So this is a labeled diagram of that particular bone that we're talking about, the lumbar vertebrae. Now this is the L2 vertebrae, the superior view of the L2 vertebrae. So we can see the vertebral body, we can see the vertebral foramen, the pericle, we can see all of these parts here, the transverse process and the rest of those, even the spine can be seen in this picture. So this is another diagram that can help us to understand what we are talking about. You can see the labels properly spelled out here. So we have the superior view here as well as the lateral view in this region here. So that is that about that. So our specimen I is the cactus plant. Our specimen I is the cactus plant, and we have its own classification looking like this. You have the Plantae as the kingdom. The phylum is the Trachyphyta. It is belonging to the class Angiosperma. The order is the Caryophyllalis, and then we have the family to be the Cactaceae. Now looking at this, we'll be talking about different genomes. The genomes we'll be talking about, we have the Parodia, we have the Ferrocactus, etc. All of these are genomes that we are looking at for this particular crop. Now looking at this here, we have the smallest species of this particular cactus plant to be the Blossfeldia lilliputiana. The Blossfeldia lilliputiana is the smallest species that is recorded as part of the species of this cactus plant, while the tallest species is the Pachyceros pragle. The Pachyceros pragle is the tallest species that is recorded. Now cactus is adapted to very hot dry climates. It is adapted to very hot dry climates. Particularly it is found in arid and desert lands. That is those are the series of the places that we have this organism. They are found in arid and desert lands. Now they have their leaves reduced to spines to prevent water loss to the surrounding. That is basically what we have in this type of crop. It has spines on them, and the spines are supposedly replacing the leaves, because these plants are found in regions that are very very hot, and so they do not need to lose water to the surrounding. Leaves will carry out transpiration, carries out more transpiration than expected in the plant. So if they were to have much leaves on them, they will be losing water rapidly to the surrounding, and because they are found in hot environment, they mustn't lose water to the surrounding or excessively lose water to the surrounding, and that is why their leaves have been reduced to spines. Now these spines are produced from specialized structures called the areoles. The areoles are structures that have formed the spines. Now this particular organism called the cactus, they store high amount of water because of the kind of stems that they have. So cactus are seen as xerophytes. Xerophytes meaning that they are found in environments that lack water. So they are not water loving plants. They are not plants that actually survive in high amount of water. So that brought us to talk about the types of plants that we have, discussing their water affinity. So we have 3 examples of such. We have the hydrophytes. The hydrophytes are the water loving plants, like we have the water lily, we have the water leaf and the rest of those. We have the mesophytes. They are moderate lovers of water. They love water but in a moderate sense. Example, we have the major crops that we have, like the cassava, we have the yam and the rest of those. And then we have the xerophytes. Xerophytes are organisms that are found cultivated or growing in environments that do not have water, environments that lack water. Those are the environments that we have the xerophytes. So organisms like the cactus, this cactus is an example, is a major example of the xerophytes. So here we have example of the cactus. We can see this is an example of a cactus. We can see all of the spines that are found on the plant's part. You can see all of the spines. These are parts that are formed from the areoles. So those are representing the leaves. So this is an example. This is another example of the cactus. We can see it. This is another example of the cactus. You can see it. This is another example. Also, we have this as another example. We can see them. So these are examples of cactus that we have. So our specimen J now is the water lettuce. Water lettuce is our specimen J, and its scientific name is the Pistia statulis. The Pistia statutis, that's the scientific name. So it belongs to the class, the kingdom Plantae. The phylum is the Trachyphyta, and the class is also Angiosperma. The order is the Alismatelis, and then the family is the Araceae. The genus is the Pistia, while the species is the Stratotis. So that is the classification of the water lettuce. Water lettuce are plants that are found growing specifically on water. So they are aquatic plants, and that is why we refer to them as hydrophytes. In the last specimen, we talked about the types of crops as they relate with the water in their environment. So we made mention of the xerophytes, the mesophytes, as well as the hydrophytes. Hydrophytes are organisms that actually survive in environment with very abundant amount of water. So this particular water lettuce that we're talking about is a perennial monocotyledon with thick soft leaves, and the leaves form rosettes. I'll tell us what the rosettes are shortly. So they are perennial monocotyledons with thick soft leaves. Now they float on water, having their roots dangling submerged in the water beneath the leaves. That is how you find them, and they can measure up to about 15 centimeters long, and they are characterized by light green color. These are some characteristics of this particular crop. So looking at that now, we have this as a picture. You can see the lettuce here. These are the lettuce. This is the water lettuce. We have it here, while this part here in the water is what we refer to as the roots. So looking at this picture here, we'll be able to understand it properly. So here is what I referred to earlier on as the set of leaves forming the rosette. We can see how the leaves form rosettes, beautifully aligned, and it is having light green color. So we have the plants looking like this. You can see the leaves underneath, and then the leaves forming rosettes. This is another picture of water lily. So that is about what we have for the water lilies. So perhaps you are asked to make a diagram of the water lily. This is the diagrammatic representation of what water lily looks like. You can see the leaves and then the roots that is found there. So basically that is what we'll be looking at. For the water lilies. The next specimen is specimen K, and it is helping us to talk about the ripe tomato fruit. That is what you are looking at for specimen K, ripe tomato fruit. The scientific name is the Solanum lycopersicum. That is the scientific name, the Solanum lycopersicum. So we have the classification here. It is a Plantae, a Trachyphyta, also an Angiosperma. Now the order is the Solanalis, and the family is the Solanaceae. We have the genome to be the Solanum, while the species is the Lycopersicum. So tomato is an edible berry. It is a vegetable, and it is cooked in many delicacies. It is used in the making of spices. It is used in making so many types of soups and so many types of sauces. It is also eaten in some salads and the rest of those. It is cultivated in temperate climates, that is an average environment with moderate temperature. This plant has a height of about 3 meters. We have this plant having a height of about 3 meters. And then the plant stems are vines and sprouls or crawls. These plant stems, they are vines, they sprawl or they crawl, hence they need support. The vines of this particular crop, they are pubescent, that is, they are covered with hairs. That is what we mean there. So tomato is a perennial crop, and it is cultivated as annual crop. Tomato is also a dicot. Dicotyledon. This tomato is propagated by seeds from mature fruit. We get seeds from mature fruit in the propagation of tomato, and then the placentation we have in it is exile. So that is about what we want to talk about for the specimen K, which is the ripe tomato fruit. So looking at pictures now, we have this here. If you look closely on the vine, this is what we refer to as the vine. This particular part here is what we refer to as the vine. You will notice that there are hair-like structures on the vines. Those hair-like structures are what we said that make these particular vines pubescent. That is what we are referring to. So we have other pictures like this. If you look closely, you'll be able to see the vines on this particular picture here. Now, I used this picture to be able to differentiate between the ripe and the unripe. This one here is an unripe tomato fruit, while this one here is a ripe tomato fruit. So we need to be able to differentiate between them. So we have a cut here, a transverse cut of a tomato. This is a transverse cut of a tomato. So we have it well labeled. We'll be able to identify all of the parts of the diagram when it is shown. So the next specimen is specimen L, and it is a ripe palm fruit. The scientific name is the Elas guinensis. That's the scientific name of the ripe palm fruit, the Elas guinensis. The classification, it is a Plantae. It belongs to the phylum, the Trachyphyta. The class is Angiosperma. The order is Aracalis. While the family is the Aracaceae, we have the genus to be Elas and the species is the Guinensis. Now, this oil palm is a very or palm fruit rather, is a very important product in the production of palm oil. It is very important. It is, in fact, it is the principal source of the production of palm oil. The tree is single stemmed with height of about 20 meters. So many examples of this particular plant, and we have so many varieties now. We have new varieties that are very short and they actually do well. The palm fruit takes about 6 months to develop from pollination to maturity. The fruits are reddish in color and then they grow into large bunches. The fruits have oily, fleshy oil outer layer, which is called the pericarp. Yes, the fruits, the actual part that is used in the production of the palm oil, they are oily, fleshy. They are oily and they are fleshy. That is the pericarp. And it has a single seed inside its nut. It has a single seed inside it, which is called the kernel. This kernel is also rich in oil. We use the kernel to make the oil, which is called the palm kernel oil or the kernel oil, as the case might be, or as it is being seen in some areas or identified as in some areas. Pollination is made possible by insect. Pollination of this particular crop, this particular palm, is made possible by insects. Now, the oil that is extracted from it can be used for cooking, can be used for so many things, particularly for cooking. Even the kernel oil is used for cooking, and at the same time it can be also used in the production of soaps. This oil, they are rich in vitamins B, vitamin C. They have high amount of carbon, iron, zinc in them. It also has laxative and diuretic effects. Yes, this particular oil has laxative and diuretic effect. It helps in the treatment of diabetes. It is also used as antidote for poisons. So looking at pictures now, this is what the Elas guinensis looks like. So this part here is what I was talking about, that it is oily, it is soft, it is fleshy. So this part is what is used in making the palm oil. Now inside here where we have the nuts, this part here which is white in color is what we refer to as the kernel. It is this white part here called the kernel that is used in producing the kernel oil. So we need to be able to break through this particular endocarp here. This tiny thing here that we are seeing is called the endocarp. We need to be able to break through it to be able to reach the kernel. Let me show us a picture to understand what you are talking about. Okay, this is another picture showing the oil and the kernel. So look at this diagram here. Look, all of these parts here that is yellow, so to say, they form the mesocarp. That is the part that actually gives the oily the palm oil that we are talking about. But for us to be able to reach the kernel, which is the kernel inside the endocarp here, we need to be able to break through this particular sheet here. So that is what we are talking about. So this is what the kernel oil, the palm fruit looks like. So here is an example of the picture of a palm tree, and it has its bunch here with fruits falling out from it. So this is an example of a palm tree with the bunch and then fruits around it. Our specimen M is a ripe Tridax fruit. That's our specimen M. It is a ripe Tridax fruit, and the scientific name is called the Tridax procumbens. That's the scientific name, Tridax procumbens. So its classification, it is a Plantae. It belongs to the phylum the Trachyphyta. It is belonging to the Angiosperma as well for its class, and then the order is the Asteralis. The family Asteraceae. The genus is Tridax, while the species is Procumbens. We have so many species. Now it has its common names. If it is not called Tridax, it could also be called the coat button, or the Tridax daisy. The plants bear daisy-like yellow-centered flowers, and these leaves are toothed. It has leaves that are toothed and they have arrow head shapes. The fruit is hard. We're talking about the fruit. So the fruit of this particular plant is hard, and it is an achene. It is covered with stiff hairs, and they have feathery plum-like structures and white purples. Looking at the uses of this particular fruit, it is used for wound healing and as anticoagulant. It is also used as antifungal and insect repellent, as well as its use in the treatment of boils and blisters. So these and more are some of the uses of this particular fruit called the Tridax fruit. So this is an example of a picture showing the Tridax plant, and then if you look closely, you see some black patches, some black images in this particular structure here. Those are the dust-like particles that are found in the Tridax plant. So this is another example of a Tridax. If you look, you see some dust-like particles showing the fruits. So that is what we have there for the Tridax fruit. So our next specimen is specimen N, which is a ripe mango fruit. Specimen N is a ripe mango fruit, and that is what we are having next. So what is a ripe mango fruit? It is called the Mangifera indica. The Mangifera indica is a ripe mango fruit. Now looking at it, we have its own classification to be Plantae. Phylum is the Trachyphyta, the class is the Magnoliphyta, and then the order is the Sapindalis, while the family is the Anacardiaceae. The genus is Magnifera, while the species is the Indica. So mango is a dicotyledonous plant, which means it has two seed leaves. This particular crop has its cotyledons, which are fleshy and they store food. The embryo is covered by a two-layered seed coat. The embryos that we have in the mango fruit, they are two-layered. We have the first one to be the inner tegmen, which is attached to the hilum, and we have the outer testa. So those are the two layer seed coats. We have the inner tegmen and the outer testa. The tree can grow to about 30 meters in height. The tree has approximate height reach of about 30 meters. Now the fruit is a source of vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K. It also has some amount of potassium, magnesium, even folate, choline, beta carotene in it. This particular fruit is a drupe. The type of fruit that this mango belongs to is called the drupe. Now looking at the uses now, we have all of the uses itemized, or some of the uses itemized here. Let me put that here. Uses. Uses. Yes, so some of the uses are itemized here. First and foremost, we said it has or serve the antioxidant effect. It has the antioxidant effect which relieves oxidative stress. Also, it boosts immune system, the skin and the eye health. It boosts the immune system as well as the skin and the eye health. It has high amount of carbohydrates in it and has a very low amount of fat and cholesterol. So looking at the picture, this is what the mango fruit looks like. You can see this as an example of the mango fruit. Now this is a cut, a diagrammatic representation of the longitudinal cut of the mango fruit, showing its epicap, the mesocarp, which is the fleshy part, and then it is showing the seed. Now the coat of the seed is what we refer to as the endocarp. So that is that. So this is a more detailed diagram of that particular organism that we are talking about, the mango fruit. And lastly here we're talking about specimen O, which is the ripe flamboyant flower, and the scientific name is called the Didelonis regia. That's the scientific name of the flamboyant flower, the Didelonis regia. The classification, we have it stated here. The phylum is the kingdom is Plantae and the phylum is Strachyphyta. It is an angiosperma. It belongs to the the family of the Fabaceae. And then the genome is Didelonis, while the species is regia. Looking at other names that this particular crop or this particular plant is called, it could also be called the flame of the forest or the flame tree. Now it is propagated by seed. This particular plant is propagated by seed, and the placentation in it is marginal, like we have in the case of the bean, which is the Phaseolus vulgaris. So that is the placentation that we have in this particular plant. It is used as ornament. It is used as ornamental plants or flowers for decoration, and it is also used as shade or canopy. Now looking at the flower itself, the corolla has 5 red and or yellow spatulate petals that form a particular flower, and they all flare back. Now it has 10 stamens in the monodelphous arrangement. It has 10 stamens in the monodelphous arrangement. The monodelphous there is saying that the lower 9 are fused, forming a partial tube with the 10 stamen that is unfused, found at the top of the flower. So this is what you are saying here. Look at this diagram here. We have, starting from this place here, this is the flower. We can see them underneath. So we have 5 flowers underneath. We have 4 underneath, and then we have another 5 on it, forming the pistils that we made mention of. That's the monodelphous arrangement. And then this last one that we have here form the stamen, which is the 10th flower. So it forms the stamen, and that is how the flowers look. Looking at this diagram here, you'll be able to understand it better. So this is a whole picture of this particular plant. So we can see the plant born in pods. The seed of the plant is found in pods, and it is with this that we say that it is placentated to be in a marginal form. So look at this diagram here to help us understand what we are actually talking about. We can see this, the title is longitudinal section of Didelonis regia, which is the scientific name of the crop that we're talking of, the plant that we're talking about. So we have all of this here, the petals here arranged in a monodelphous arrangement, having this particular one here, which is the stigma and the stamen, to form the 10th leaf. So that is basically what we are talking about for this particular specimen. So now that we have identified all of these specimens, I'll encourage you to try as much as possible to go through them, understand all that have been said on the notes, identifying all of the specimens with all of the characteristics that we have discussed about each of the specimens. I plead with you to try as much as possible to go through this so you'll be able to familiarize yourselves with everything that have been discussed. Like our content, share them with your friends, let them also benefit from what you're getting, which we know is very, very beneficial to you. For those of us that are yet to subscribe to the channel, please don't fail to do so. Subscribe to the channel so you get easily notified of subsequent uploads when we put them up on the channel. Look out for some other tutorials and some other practical specimen videos on the ongoing Neco examination, particularly on the other science subjects. We encourage you to try as much as possible to stick around with us, stay with us, as you'll be getting the very best of your value right here on our channel. We wish you success in your exam. Bye for now.